The emergency signal reached every corner of the Galactic Council chambers within seconds. Ambassador Threlikoth of the Varix Consortium stood before the massive holographic display, his 4 eyes fixed on the swirling red mass that dominated the screen. Around him, representatives from 47 different species fell silent. 2 neutron stars, Threlikoth announced, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into universal standard. They are collapsing into each other. The gamma-ray burst will release in approximately 1 standard year. The display zoomed outward, showing the projected path of destruction. A cone of death would sweep across an entire galactic sector, sterilizing everything in its path. 12 inhabited systems lay directly in the danger zone. Another 36 would suffer severe radiation damage. Ambassador Park Ji-woo watched from her seat in the lower tier, the section reserved for newer council members. Earth had joined the Galactic Council only 5 years ago, and humanity still occupied the bottom ranks of galactic civilization. The holographic projections cast red shadows across her face as she studied the devastation map. "We must begin immediate evacuations," declared Council Prime Sarakin. Her crystalline form refracted the warning lights into rainbow patterns. "Priority will be given to species with insufficient technological capability to evacuate themselves." Park Ji-woo's tablet chimed softly. The data packet contained detailed projections. Her heart sank as she found Earth's solar system highlighted in bright crimson, dead center in the gamma-ray burst's path. Over the next 3 hours, the Council worked with impressive efficiency. 6 species were designated for full evacuation support. Their populations would be transported to safe systems, given temporary housing, and provided with resources to rebuild. The Council's reputation as benevolent protectors would grow even stronger. Earth was not on the priority list. Park Ji-woo raised her hand, waiting for recognition. It took 20 minutes before Council Prime acknowledged her. "The human representative wishes to speak," Zaraquin said, her tone carrying the faint condescension that the elder species used with newcomers. Park Ji-woo stood, straightening her dark blue diplomatic suit. "Thank you, Council Prime. I notice Earth's system is in the direct path, but humanity has not been included in the evacuation priorities." Threlikoth's laugh echoed through his translator. "Ambassador Park, your species lacks the ship capacity to evacuate even 1% of your population. Your industrial base cannot construct sufficient vessels in the time remaining. The Council recognizes that humanity cannot save itself. Then we request emergency construction assistance," Park Ji-woo said calmly. The Council chamber filled with the various sounds of alien amusement. Chirps, whistles, harmonic tones, and grinding noises blended into a symphony of dismissal. "The resources required would be extraordinary," Zaraquin explained with exaggerated patience. "However, the Council is not without compassion. We will offer humanity a gift. We will evacuate 500,000 of your people. Scientists, artists, engineers, cultural preservers. Enough to keep your species alive as a remnant population." Park Ji-woo felt her jaw tighten. 500,000 from a population of 11 billion. And the rest of humanity? "We are deeply sorry," Zaraquin said, though her tone suggested otherwise. "But the Council must prioritize species that have demonstrated greater value to galactic civilization. Perhaps if humanity had spent less time on your tribal conflicts and more time on advancement, you would have the capability to save yourselves." The other ambassadors murmured agreement. This was the natural order. Advanced species thrived. Primitive species accepted their limitations. "May I request the complete data on the gamma-ray burst?" Park Ji-woo asked. "Trajectory, energy output, timeline, everything?" Threlikoth's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "For what purpose?" "Scientific curiosity," Park Ji-woo said simply. "If Earth is to die, our scientists would like to understand what kills them." The Council Prime considered this a reasonable final request. The data will be transmitted to Earth immediately. Now, regarding the Council's generous evacuation offer, Earth respectfully declines, Park Ji-woo interrupted. The chamber fell absolutely silent. Every translator, every communication device, every ambient noise ceased. You decline? Zara Quinn's crystalline form darkened to deep purple. You would allow your entire species to die rather than accept salvation for 500,000? We decline the offer as presented, Park Ji-woo clarified. Humanity will manage our own response to this crisis. We appreciate the Council's concern and the detailed data you are providing. Earth requests no further assistance. Park Ji-woo gathered her materials and walked toward the exit. Behind her, the council chamber erupted in confused debate. The human ambassador had just refused the greatest act of charity the council had ever offered to a primitive species. Threlkoth called after her, "You are condemning billions to death, out of pride." Park Ji-woo paused at the doorway and looked back. Perhaps, or perhaps, humanity sees options that the council has not considered. Thank you for the data. Earth will be in touch. She left the chamber, knowing every surveillance system was tracking her. Let them watch. Let them wonder. Within 6 hours, every human ship in Council space received the same coded message: return to Earth, immediately. No exceptions. By the end of the week, human embassies across 40 systems had gone dark. Research stations were abandoned. Trade outposts recalled their personnel. Earth's small but growing presence in the galaxy contracted like a dying star. The exodus puzzled the Council. Were humans evacuating on their own? Impossible. They lacked the ships and the destinations. From orbit around their homeworld, every surveillance satellite aimed at Earth reported the same thing. The planet had gone completely silent. No broadcasts, no communications, no explanation. Just silence, and in that silence, humanity began to work. 3 months had passed since Earth went silent, and the mystery consumed galactic attention more than any gossip in recent memory. At the Galactic Intelligence Analysis Center on the planet Karis, Director Vintar studied the latest reports with growing frustration. His species, the Karis Collective, prided themselves on knowing everything that happened in civilized space. But Earth had become a black hole of information. "Show me the latest surveillance pass," Vintar ordered. The holographic display materialized above his desk. A Karis intelligence vessel had attempted to enter Earth's solar system 3 days ago. The footage showed the ship approaching Mars orbit when human defense platforms appeared from nowhere. No weapons fired, no threats issued. The platforms simply positioned themselves in a perfect blockade formation. And a single message transmitted: Sol system is closed. To external traffic. Please maintain safe distance. The intelligence vessel had retreated. Protocol demanded it. They detected us 3 million kilometers out, Vintar's analyst said. Our stealth systems are the best in the galaxy. They should not have seen us. Infected. Vintar's down. When you said, our stealth system, yet they did, Vintar murmured. What are they hiding? Every attempt to pierce Earth's veil had failed. Long-range scans showed unusual activity throughout the solar system, but interference fields blocked detailed observation. Occasional energy spikes registered on sensors, but their purpose remained unknown. The Council's official position was that humanity had entered a period of mass panic. Some species theorized humans were building primitive bunker systems, planning to hide underground while their surface burned. Others suggested Earth's government had collapsed into chaos, with different factions fighting over the limited evacuation ships. A few voices whispered something different, something that made other species uncomfortable. At the Caldera Research Institute, Dr. Kara Osei worked in her laboratory, ignoring the concerned messages from her alien colleagues. She was one of only 47 humans still living outside Sol system. All of them researchers at academic institutions, too valuable to abandon. Her colleague, Professor Thimral, entered without knocking. His tentacles writhed with agitation. "Kara, please," Thimral said. "The transport leaves tomorrow. Last chance for evacuation to the Council refuge worlds. You must reconsider." "Great. Great. Great." Kara continued calibrating her equipment, not looking up. "I appreciate your concern, Thimral. But I'm staying. The gamma-ray burst will reach this sector in 9 months. This facility is in the radiation zone." "I know the timeline," Kara said calmly. Thimral's tentacles went rigid with confusion. "Then why stay? Is this some human religious practice? Acceptance of fate?" Kara finally looked at him, a slight smile on her face. "My people don't run from storms, Thimral. We learned long ago to redirect them." "That makes no sense. You cannot redirect a gamma-ray burst. It is a force of nature." "Force? Yes. Of nature? Yes. Unstoppable?" Kara's smile widened. "That remains to be seen." Thimral backed away slowly, his translator catching the certainty in her voice. "You know something. Earth is planning something. Earth is always planning something," Kara said. "We're a young species, but we're not stupid. We're just patient." After Thimral left, Kara returned to her work. Her research on gravitational wave detection would be crucial soon. She just had to trust that the engineers back home had solved the power generation problems. On Earth, they had. Commander Lee Hyun-ji stood in the control center buried beneath the Pacific Ocean, watching as the final components of the network came online. Around her, 3,000 engineers monitored streams of data from across the solar system. "Mercury Station reports full operational status," one engineer announced. "Venus Station confirms quantum link established," another called out. Lee checked her main display. 73 gravitational lensing stations, positioned throughout the solar system in a precise, geometric pattern. Each one was anchored to planetary bodies or positioned in carefully calculated orbital positions. Each one capable of generating a localized space-time distortion field. Individually, they were impressive. Together, networked through quantum communication to act as a single, coordinated system, they were unprecedented. "How long until we can run a full system test?" Lee asked. Her deputy, a young engineer named Ryu, checked his calculations. 6 weeks, Commander. But the test will be visible to anyone watching. The energy signature will be massive. Let them see it, Lee said. By the time they figure out what we're doing, it'll be too late to interfere. The cost had been enormous. Every nation on Earth had contributed. Manufacturing centers on every continent worked around the clock. The planet's entire energy grid had been restructured to support the network. Fusion reactors that were years away from commercial use had been pushed into emergency deployment. Earth's economy would take decades to recover from this expenditure. But Earth would exist to recover. That was what mattered. The Council, meanwhile, had declared humanity's situation a tragedy and moved on to other matters. They evacuated the 6 designated species with ceremonial efficiency, earning praise from galactic media. The Council's benevolence would be remembered for generations. 4 days before the Council's evacuation operations completed, they decided to make one final gesture toward Earth. "We cannot allow an entire species to die without offering every possible chance," Council Prime Zara Quinn announced. "Send a rescue fleet to Earth. Force evacuate population centers if necessary. We will save humanity, despite their foolish pride." The rescue fleet of 23 vessels entered Sol System broadcasting messages of salvation. They expected desperate gratitude. They expected humans begging for help. Instead, they found a wall. The human defense platforms numbered in the thousands. They formed interlocking fields of coverage that made approach to Earth impossible. The fleet's commander, a Varix officer named Jutmal, tried to explain the Council's benevolent intentions. The human response was polite but absolute. "Sol System remains closed. Your concern is noted and appreciated. Please maintain safe distance or defensive measures will be employed." "We are trying to save you," Jetmal broadcast. "We are saving ourselves," came the reply. "Do not interfere." The fleet retreated after 2 days of fruitless negotiation. Jetmal's report to the Council was grim. Humanity has chosen mass suicide through misplaced pride. They possess no technology capable of deflecting or surviving the gamma-ray burst. I estimate total extinction will occur within 7 months. The Council held a moment of silence for the humans. So young, so foolish, so tragically proud. In her laboratory, Kara Osei received a coded message from Earth. Just 2 words. Network operational. She smiled and continued her work. The storm was coming. But so was humanity's answer. The countdown reached 0 at exactly 0347 hours. Council Standard Time. Across the galaxy, billions watched the live feeds, not to see a miracle, but to witness a tragedy. The death of an entire species, broadcast in real time. Some watched with sadness, others with morbid curiosity, but all watched with the certainty that they knew how this would end. Earth's solar system appeared peaceful on the long-range scans. The defense platforms still held their positions. The mysterious energy signatures continued their steady pulse. No evacuation ships fled into deep space. No desperate final broadcasts begged for salvation. Just silence. Council Prime Zara Quinn watched from the observation deck of the Council flagship, positioned safely 30 light-years from the gamma-ray burst's path. Around her, representatives from dozens of species had gathered for the memorial observation. "A tragic loss," Threlkoth said quietly. "They could have saved some of their people. Instead, all will die." The sensor display showed the gamma-ray burst approaching Earth's sector. It moved at the speed of light. An unstoppable wave of radiation that would strip away atmospheres, boil oceans, and sterilize every planet in its path. Director Vintar of Karis Intelligence stood apart from the others, his expression troubled. Something felt wrong. Humans were young and inexperienced. Yes, but they were not stupid. Their silence had been too complete, too organized. Species in panic did not maintain such perfect communication discipline. "Burst entering Earth's sector in 30 seconds, an officer announced. The assembled representatives fell silent. Some bowed their heads. Others offered prayers to various deities. All prepared to witness the end of humanity. The display showed Earth's sun, a small yellow star in the cosmic vastness. The gamma-ray burst would reach it in 10 seconds. 9. 8. Then the energy readings went insane. "What is happening?" Zara Quinn demanded, as alarms blared across the flagship's bridge. The sensor officer struggled with his controls. "Massive gravitational distortions detected throughout Sol system. Energy output comparable to a supernova." On the display, Earth's solar system lit up like a newborn star. 73 points of light appeared simultaneously, each one generating a localized space-time distortion field. But they were not acting independently. They were networked, coordinated, operating as a single, massive gravitational lens. "They are bending space itself," Vintar whispered in awe. The gamma-ray burst hit Earth's solar system, and reality twisted. Commander Lee Hyun-ji watched from her control center as decades of theoretical physics became practical application. The gravitational lensing stations, each one anchored to the sun's own gravity well, created a coordinated distortion field that wrapped around the entire solar system like a shield. Not a shield to block the gamma rays. That would be impossible. The energy involved was too enormous. Instead, they created a gravitational lens that bent the path of the burst itself. The gamma rays curved around Earth's sun, following the artificial curvature of space-time that humanity had created. The radiation that should have sterilized Earth instead flowed past it, deflected by the largest gravitational manipulation ever attempted. But humanity had not simply saved themselves. Lee watched her secondary display, showing the projected new path of the gamma-ray burst. Every angle had been calculated. Every trajectory triple-checked. The deflection was not random. Earth had redirected the burst away from all 12 inhabited systems in its original path. All stations reporting stable output, Ryu announced. Deflection holding. Burst passing harmlessly. The control center remained silent, every engineer focused on their displays. This was not a moment for celebration. Not yet. They had to maintain the field until the entire burst passed, and that would take hours. On the Council flagship, chaos reigned. Run the analysis again, Zaraquin ordered. That cannot be correct. But the analysis was correct. The gamma-ray burst, one of the most powerful cosmic events possible, had been deflected from its original path. Not blocked, not absorbed, redirected, and redirected with surgical precision. They saved themselves. Threlkoth said, his voice hollow with shock. No, Vintar corrected, pointing to his tactical display. They saved everyone. Look at the new trajectory. Every inhabited system that was in danger is now outside the burst's path. The realization spread through the observation deck like a shockwave. Humanity, the species the Council had dismissed as too primitive to save themselves, had not only survived but had protected every other threatened civilization in the process. How? Zaraquin demanded. They lack the technology. Their industrial capacity is insufficient. This is impossible. Clearly, Vintar said dryly. They possessed capabilities we failed to recognize. For 6 hours, Earth's gravitational lensing network maintained the deflection field. The gamma-ray burst flowed around Sol System like water around a stone, its deadly radiation harmlessly dispersed into empty space. When the burst finally passed, Commander Lee allowed herself to breathe. Around her, engineers began to cheer. Celebrations would come later. Recovering from the energy expenditure would take years, but Earth remained. Humanity survived. Send the message, Lee ordered. Across the galaxy, the communication blackout ended. Every council facility, every embassy, every research station received the same broadcast. Ambassador Park Ji-woo's face appeared on screens, her expression calm and professional. To the Galactic Council and all member species, Park began. Humanity appreciates your concern regarding the recent gamma-ray burst event. We have successfully implemented defensive measures and sustained no casualties. We are pleased to report that all inhabited systems previously threatened by the burst are also safe. The deflection trajectory was calculated to protect all species in the affected region. Park paused, letting that information sink in. Earth's solar system is now reopening to normal traffic. We apologize for any inconvenience caused by our temporary communications blackout. It was necessary to prevent interference with our defensive operations. Humanity looks forward to resuming normal diplomatic and trade relations. We have handled the situation. The broadcast ended. On the Council flagship, nobody spoke. The implications were too enormous. Humanity had not begged for help. They had not accepted charity. They had solved the problem themselves, and in doing so, had saved 6 other species from extinction. Species that the Council had successfully evacuated, yes, but at enormous cost and disruption. Humanity had simply made the problem go away. Threlkoth broke the silence. We need to know how they did this. Immediately. Agreed, Zaraquin said, her crystalline form pulsing with complex emotions. Send a diplomatic delegation to Earth. Priority 1. We must understand what we are dealing with. As the Council scrambled to respond, Director Vintar permitted himself a small smile. He had suspected humanity was planning something. But this changed everything. A species that could manipulate gravity on such a massive scale was not primitive. They were not helpless. They were not weak. They had simply been underestimated. And now, the entire galaxy knew the truth. The delegation arrived at Earth 3 weeks after the deflection. 15 species sent representatives, each one carrying the same questions. How? Why? And what else could humanity do? Ambassador Park Ji-woo greeted them at the new orbital station humanity had constructed specifically for this meeting. The station itself was a statement. Built in just 2 weeks, it demonstrated industrial capacity that the Council had claimed humans did not possess. The conference room overlooked Earth, the blue and green planet turning peacefully below. The delegates settled into seats, designed for their various body configurations, and the questions began immediately. "We must know the technical specifications of your deflection system," demanded Threlkoth. "The Council requires this information for galactic security purposes." Park smiled politely. "The technical details will be shared during Chief Engineer Lee's presentation. However, I should clarify that the Council does not require anything from humanity. We are sharing this information voluntarily, as a gesture of cooperation." The subtle correction landed like a hammer. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. The power dynamic had changed, and everyone in the room felt it. Commander Lee Hyun-ji entered, carrying a data slate and looking like she had not slept in days. She probably had not. The deflection network still required constant monitoring as they powered it down safely. "Thank you for coming," Lee said, activating the central holographic display. "I will explain how humanity deflected the gamma-ray burst." The display showed a simplified model of the solar system, with 73 glowing points distributed throughout it. "The solution required 3 components," Lee continued. "First, gravitational lensing stations capable of generating localized space-time distortion fields. Second, a quantum communication network, allowing all stations to operate in perfect synchronization. Third, sufficient power generation to maintain the field for the duration of the burst's passage." She manipulated the display, showing how the stations worked together. Each station generated a gravitational field. Individually, these fields were modest, but networked together and anchored to our sun's natural gravity well, they created a massive lens capable of bending the burst's trajectory. Threlkoth leaned forward. "The energy requirements must have been extraordinary." "We mobilized every energy resource on Earth," Lee said simply. "Fusion reactors, solar collectors, geothermal plants, everything. We also constructed 42 new fusion reactors specifically for this project. Our entire planetary economy was restructured to support the network." A delegate from the Keras Collective, a species known for their analytical precision, spoke up. "The mathematics alone would take our best computers years to calculate. The margin for error would be microscopic." "How did you achieve this in less than 1 year?" Lee's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. "Pride, perhaps." "We did not achieve this in 1 year," Lee said. "Humanity has been researching gravitational manipulation for 70 years. When your species saw us testing primitive fusion drives, you assumed we were simply trying to match your propulsion technology. You were wrong. We were studying space-time engineering. The fusion drives were always secondary research." The room fell silent as the implications registered. Humanity had been working on this technology for 3 generations. They had simply never mentioned it. "But you still risked everything," Zara Quinn said, her crystalline form pulsing orange with confusion. "What if your calculations were wrong? What if the system failed? Then we would have died," Park said calmly. "But we calculated a 60% probability of success. Those were acceptable odds." "Acceptable?" Threlkoth's translator struggled with his outrage. "You risked extinction on 60% certainty?" "We faced extinction with 100% certainty if we did nothing," Park countered. "The mathematics favored action." "Commander Lee, please continue." Lee nodded, pulling up new data. "The deflection required precise timing and positioning. We began construction immediately after receiving the Council's data package. We worked in complete communications blackout to prevent external interference. The defense platforms were necessary to ensure we could complete the project without well-meaning rescue attempts disrupting our operations." Director Vintar, who had been silent until now, spoke carefully. "You used our data to save not only yourselves, but every species in the burst's path. Why? You could have simply deflected the burst away from Earth and let it continue toward the other inhabited systems. The question hung in the air. It was the one everyone wanted to ask, but feared to voice. Lee looked at Park, who nodded. The ambassador stood, walking to the viewport. Because we could, Park said simply. We had the capability to save everyone, so we did. Why would we make any other choice? Resources, Threlkoth said bluntly. The energy expenditure to deflect the burst away from all inhabited systems was significantly greater than simply protecting Earth alone. You could have conserved your resources. We could have. Park agreed. But what kind of species saves itself while watching others die when they have the power to prevent it? She turned to face the delegates. The Council offered to save 500,000 humans out of 11 billion. You calculated that saving more would cost too many resources. You made a practical decision based on efficiency. Humanity made a different calculation. We decided that if we had the power to save lives, we would save as many as possible, regardless of cost. The room remained quiet. Several delegates looked uncomfortable. The Council's decision, so logical and practical at the time, now felt cold in comparison. The cost to Earth was substantial, Lee added, pulling up economic data. We consumed 40% of our total energy reserves. Worldwide rationing will be necessary for the next 5 years as we rebuild our power generation capacity. Our economy will take decades to fully recover. In Intention, Country 5 Rec, and Intention, Country 5 Rec. You bankrupted yourselves to save strangers? A delegate from the Palax Union asked, genuinely confused. We preserved ourselves and others, Park corrected. The economic cost is temporary. The alternative was permanent. Again, the mathematics favored our approach. Zaraquin's form shifted through several colors before settling on a deep blue. The Council wishes to offer humanity full membership status, with immediate voting rights and access to advanced technology exchanges. We accept the membership, Park said, but we do not require technology exchanges. As Commander Lee explained, our apparent technological limitations were simply focused research in different areas. We will happily share our gravitational engineering knowledge with any species interested in learning. Several delegates began speaking at once. The offer was unprecedented. Technology was power, and power was carefully guarded. Park raised her hand for silence. Humanity learned an important lesson from this experience. We learned that working alone, in secret, almost cost us everything. If we had shared our research earlier, perhaps other species could have contributed ideas that would have improved our success probability beyond 60%. Perhaps the cost would have been less. She paused, making eye contact with each delegate. So we are choosing a different path forward. Humanity will share our knowledge freely. We will work with others, rather than in isolation, because the next cosmic threat may require all of us working together to survive. The meeting continued for 6 more hours, with Lee providing detailed technical explanations to increasingly amazed alien scientists. The gravitational lensing technology was elegant, practical, and surprisingly achievable once the theoretical framework was explained. What had seemed impossible to the Council was simply physics applied with determination and massive resource allocation. As the delegates prepared to depart, Threlkoth approached Park privately. I was among those who laughed when you declined our evacuation offer. I believed humanity would die from foolish pride. We almost did, Park admitted. 60% success probability meant 40% chance of extinction. We knew the risks. Then why? Threlkoth asked. Why risk everything? Park smiled. Because acceptance of death is easy. Fighting for survival when the odds are against you? That requires courage. And courage is something humanity has never lacked. As Earth rotated below the station, millions of humans went about their daily lives. Most, never knowing how close they had come to extinction. But they lived. They thrived. And above them, The galaxy began to see humanity not as primitive newcomers, but as equals who had earned their place among the stars. 6 months after the deflection, the Galactic Council chambers looked the same as always. But everything had changed. The seating arrangement still placed humanity in the lower tiers, but nobody made the mistake of thinking that placement reflected actual status anymore. Ambassador Park Ji-woo stood to deliver humanity's formal response to the Council's various offers and proposals. In the months since the deflection, Earth had received hundreds of requests: defensive alliances, technology sharing agreements, trade proposals, even marriage offers, from species hoping to bind themselves to humanity's rising star. The chamber fell silent as Park activated the central holographic display. Earth appeared, rotating peacefully, surrounded by data streams showing humanity's various projects and initiatives. The Council has been extraordinarily generous with its offers, Park began. Multiple species have proposed military alliances, defensive pacts, and strategic partnerships. After careful consideration, humanity must respectfully decline these arrangements. Confused murmurs rippled through the chamber. Threlkoth leaned forward. You decline defensive alliances? In a dangerous galaxy, such partnerships ensure survival. Earth does not seek partners bound by obligation, Park replied. We did not save your species to make you owe us. We saved you because we had the capability to do so, and because it was the right action to take. Creating alliances based on debt would corrupt that principle. She gestured to the display, which shifted to show a new star map. Dozens of systems were highlighted, connected by glowing lines forming a network across multiple galactic sectors. Instead, humanity proposes the Silent Guardian Network, Park announced. The display zoomed in to show technical specifications: detection satellites, early warning systems, analysis stations, all designed to identify cosmic threats long before they became immediate dangers. We will establish monitoring stations throughout the galaxy, Park continued. These stations will detect stellar phenomena, asteroid trajectories, radiation bursts, and any other cosmic event that might threaten inhabited systems. The data will be freely shared with all civilizations, transmitted in real time to the Council's central database, and to any species that requests direct access. Director Vintar studied the proposal carefully. This is an ambitious project. The coverage you propose would require thousands of stations across hundreds of sectors. The cost would be enormous. The cost of not having such a system is extinction, Park said simply. The gamma-ray burst we deflected was detected with less than a year of warning. If humanity had not already been researching gravitational manipulation, we would have died along with everyone else. Early detection is crucial for survival. Zara Quinn's crystalline form pulsed with interest. And you offer this freely? No cost to member species? No cost, Park confirmed. The stations will be built and maintained by humanity, with assistance from any species that wishes to contribute expertise or resources. But contribution is not required for access. This network serves everyone. Why? Threlkoth asked bluntly. What does humanity gain from this expenditure? Park smiled. We gain what everyone gains. Advanced warning of cosmic threats, time to prepare responses, saved lives. Is that not enough? Is that not enough? The Council debated for 3 hours. Some representatives praised humanity's generosity. Others suspected hidden motives. A few worried about human monitoring stations positioned throughout the galaxy. Though Park patiently explained that the stations would be completely transparent in design and operation, with all data publicly accessible. Finally, the Council voted. The Silent Guardian Network was approved with overwhelming support. As the session ended and delegates filed out, Park remained at the viewport, looking at the stars. So many worlds out there, so many species, all sharing the same dangerous galaxy, all vulnerable to the same cosmic threats. And now, humanity would watch over them. On Earth, Commander Lee Hyunji stood in the Pacific Control Center for the last time. Around her, engineers were systematically deactivating the gravitational lensing network. The stations would remain in place, converted to permanent infrastructure, but their emergency systems were being powered down. Final station reporting shutdown complete, Ryu announced. Network is offline. Lee nodded, feeling the weight of exhaustion settle over her. The past year had been the most intense of her life. Designing the network, building it, testing it, deploying it, all while the galaxy expected humanity to panic and die. But they had succeeded. Earth remained. Commander, Ryu said quietly, approaching with a data slate. The final accounting is complete. Lee took the slate, reading the numbers that represented humanity's sacrifice. 40% of global energy reserves depleted. Manufacturing capacity pushed beyond safe limits, causing equipment failures that would take years to repair. Economic disruption that affected billions of lives. Food rationing. Energy rationing. Medical resources stretched thin. The cost of survival. Was it worth it? Ryu asked. Lee looked around the control center at her exhausted engineers. People who had worked 20-hour days for months. People who had sacrificed time with families, personal health, career advancement, all to build something unprecedented. We are alive, Lee said. We saved ourselves and others. Yes, Ryu. It was worth it. She handed back the slate. Begin converting the network infrastructure for the Guardian project. We have new work ahead. In orbit around a distant planet called Keras Prime, Dr. Kara Osei watched as the first silent Guardian station activated. The structure was elegant, covered in sensors and communication arrays, powered by a small fusion reactor. It would watch the surrounding space, identifying threats, providing early warning. Her alien colleagues had gathered to witness the activation. Professor Thimral approached, his tentacles moving in patterns that indicated respect. Your species continues to surprise us, Thimral said. First the deflection, now this network. You protect strangers at great cost to yourselves. Not strangers, Kara corrected. Neighbors. Fellow travelers in the galaxy. When you share the same cosmic space, everyone's survival becomes interconnected. Most species do not see it that way, Thimral observed. They see competition, resources to be claimed, advantages to be hoarded, Kara smiled. Then perhaps humanity can teach a different perspective. We learned through necessity. Earth's history forced cooperation. Survive together or die separately. We learned that lesson over thousands of years, through countless mistakes and tragedies. The Guardian station completed its initialization sequence, its sensors sweeping across the local star system. Within hours, it would transmit its first data packets to the Council network. The first of thousands. On Earth, in a small observation center in Seoul, a young astronomer named Choi Min-seo adjusted her telescope and prepared for her shift. Above her, displayed on the wall, was humanity's new mission statement. We watch so others may rest easy. Min-seo thought about the stories she had heard. About the Council's offer to save only a fraction of humanity. About Earth's choice to go silent and work alone. About the deflection that saved not just Earth, but every threatened world. She thought about what her grandmother had told her. A woman who had worked in the factories building components for the lensing stations. They thought we would beg, because that is what they would do, her grandmother had said. But Earth's children learned long ago that when the storm comes, you do not ask for shelter. Min-seo completed her calibration and began her observations. Somewhere out there, a threat might be forming. A rogue asteroid. An unstable star. A cosmic event waiting to happen. And if that threat appeared, the Guardian network would detect it. Humanity would sound the warning. Other species would have time to prepare, to respond, to survive. They might never know that humanity watched over them. They might never thank the anonymous humans who staffed the monitoring stations, analyzed the data, maintained the systems. That was acceptable. Humanity did not require gratitude. You do not ask for shelter, Mincio whispered to herself, repeating her grandmother's words. You become the shelter. Above her, the stars shone steadily in the dark. Billions of lights, each one a potential threat or a home to other lives. The galaxy was vast and dangerous and beautiful, and now humanity stood watch, not for glory, not for power, not for recognition, but because they could. Because they had learned that capability created responsibility. Because they had chosen to be the species that protected rather than conquered, that shared rather than hoarded, that worked for the survival of all rather than just themselves. The silent guardians. Humanity called themselves in private. The galaxy would eventually learn the name, would eventually understand what it meant. But for now, in the quiet darkness of space, humanity simply did the work. They watched. They warned. They protected. And Earth's children, spread across the stars, continued the mission their species had chosen. Not the easiest path, not the most profitable path, but the right path, the only path that let them look at the stars and know they had earned their place among them. In the council chambers, in research stations, on distant colonies, the galaxy continued its daily routines, largely unaware of the network being built to protect them. But humanity knew. And humanity watched, silent guardians in the darkness, protectors who asked nothing in return, children of Earth, keeping vigil over the galaxy they now called home. The storm had passed. But other storms would come. And when they did, humanity would be ready, not to run, not to hide, not to beg for shelter, but to face the storm head-on, redirect it, defeat it, and protect everyone in its path. Because that was what humanity did. It was what they had always done. It was what they would always do. For as long as the stars shone, humanity would watch over them, silent, steadfast, strong, guardian of the galaxy they had learned to call home.